Hey guys, I'm so excited to be doing this video for you today. It's a long time coming. I'm talking about the house of Naomi Goodsir. Are you familiar with this house? So this house has been on my radar for probably as long as I've been shooting videos on YouTube, since 2012. I believe the brand launched around that time. And slowly they've been building their catalog of fragrances. They only have 6 fragrances, by the way, so they don't add to their catalog as frequently as a lot of other brands do. And the brand is named after Naomi Goodsir. She's an artist, and her husband partner have created some amazing fragrances. Some of them I would say are not for the faint of heart. They're on the daring side, but definitely worth noting. And there's a total of 6 fragrances here, as I said. And they've got fragrances created by Julien Rasquinet, Bertrand Duchaufour, Isabelle Doyen. So 3 different perfumers, 6 total fragrances, and some really, really awesome work by these perfumers. So I'm going to tell you about the 6 fragrances in alphabetical order. And then at the end of the video, I will also let you know my favorites ranked. So let me see if you guys can guess what are my favorites. But we've got Bois SS. This one has been on my radar forever. We've got Corpus Equus. We've got Cuir Velours, Cendre. I'm not the French speaker. Nuit de Bakelite. And then finally, Eau du Serail. So now that I've told you the name of the fragrances, I haven't told you anything about them unless you know these fragrances. Can you guess which is my favorite? I'd like to find out. Add a comment below, see if you can guess. But we're doing this in alphabetical order. As I said, we're going to talk about Bois SS. This is a 2012 launch. This is created by Julien Rasquinet. I have to be honest, these are also really awesome looking bottle. They're very minimalistic, but a bit vintage-esque, maybe a bit apothecary-like as well. And everything about the brand I really enjoy. I've actually met Naomi Goodsir several times. The first time I met her was in 2017, I believe. And she doesn't like to be photographed, so I've kind of left her alone. But she seems to be very, very nice. She also has a really amazing collection of hats she wears. So if you ever have a chance to meeting her, it'd be great to see what kind of a hat she's wearing. Also, if you're in San Francisco, you can find out about this collection even further by getting your nose on them over at Ministry of Scent, because the fragrances are sold over there. But I have links to all the fragrances in the info box. You can go check them out. But we are talking about Bois SS today. First fragrance in the collection of Naomi Goodsir fragrances. This is a 2012 launch created by Julien Rasquinet. It has notes of tobacco, whiskey, cinnamon, amber, cistus labdanum, oak moss, smoked cadewood, Somalian incense. So this must have been something, or one of Julien's very early creations. Julien Rasquinet, that is. I had the great pleasure of working with him and Juicebox on the creation of 54. It was great to work with him, and I guess this is probably one of his earlier creations. But this is on the daring side, I would say. It's quite smoky. So if you find smoky fragrances to be a bit challenging, I think this one's going to challenge you, because it's very, very smoky. It has a very prominent cadewood note, and they call it smoked cadewood. So cadewood is a smoky note to begin with. There's a whole video on the channel of cadewood if you have interest in discovering that even further, but they even call this a smoked cadewood. So you know the kind of fragrance you're going to have here. But again, it's very smoky. The word barbecue might come up, but when I think of barbecue, I think of meat being barbecued. This is not that. It's basically a fire burning, more like in the forest. Maybe you've gathered some woods, you've chopped them up, and you're doing a campfire. Maybe you're sitting by the fire. It's cold outside, because this is not as warm of a fragrance, although it does get warm in the dry down. Maybe you're smoking a cigarette, sipping on some whiskey. So it's giving you a bit of warmth under there. But it is kind of on the cooler side when you first spray it, if that makes sense. But again, it does get resinous and ambery, because it does have a prominent amber in the base. But when you first spray it, for me, resins and incense kind of has a cold effect. It's not very warm, although you light it up, it's burning. So there's the warmth from that. But it doesn't smell very warm to me when you compare it to something like full-on amber and things like that. So this does have both sides. It's quite woody, very resinous, incensey, and smoky, but eventually gets warmer as the fragrance is drying down on skin. I think it's a great job. It's a really, really great fragrance, I think. This is a bit challenging for me to wear. It's not something I would wear day in and day out. So I think this is the kind of thing that you would have to focus on if this, if you like wearing smoky fragrances. Are you a fan of things like that? I mean, eventually it also gets a little boozy for sure. The tobacco-ish notes do pop up all in the dry down, and it does get warm, spicy, but it melts with the ambery resinous effect in the dry down. But it's like a campfire to me, because when you're smelling the incense in this, there are some kind of light green elements that pop through as well. Those are coming from the incense note, the Somalian incense. And so it's all kind of mixed in together for a perfect smoky fragrance, but super, super smoky. It's like sometimes you might think about wearing a fragrance that focuses on incense. And, it's got incense, but it doesn't get this kind of charred smoky. Like this is... The campfire is just burning away. Like it's like really has burned. It's in the middle and it's like smoking fiery and kind of, burned hot. I think it's a great work. That's a great fragrance to start with. Alphabetical order, as I said, this is Bois SS. But also, again, to be honest, smoky fragrances are a bit challenging. I don't crave them every day. But when you put your nose to that and you like the smell of fire, you really like that. Because one of my favorite things is to start a fire, in the fireplace. And that smell, the kind of woods you burn and the things that you put in there to burn, they have a smell. And I kind of like that smell, and you get that with that. All right, the next fragrance is Corpus Equus. I think that's how you say it. This is a Bertrand Duchaufour fragrance. I found this fragrance to be the most challenging out of the 6 fragrances. This was also a launch from 2021. I think this is the latest fragrance from the house. As you can see, they haven't launched anything new. So they don't launch daily. Like a lot of brands are launching daily. I mean, I'm exaggerating there, but I do these videos on new launches, and you could hear a brand 1 week and then 2 weeks later, you'll hear them again with another fragrance. So this brand doesn't do that. But this again is a challenging fragrance for me to wear. And I had a tough time with it. But the notes breakdown for Corpus Equus is black rose petal, horsehair, leather, cigarette ash, Tonkin musk, amber infusion. So those are the notes, right? It has horsehair. Have you ever seen a note like this pop up in a fragrance? Do add a comment below and let me know. So you do get the rose. It's there, but it's kind of short-lived. I mean, the rose does stand out as soon as you spray it, because I feel like it's the faintest or the lightest of the notes. So I think all the other notes are so substantial in intensity, not because they're using a lot of it, but their presence next to this more fragile rose petal note, it kind of takes over. You kind of get the whiff of the rose in there a little bit, but now it's blended in with the animalic leathery touches of the fragrance. Yes, it's getting ambery in the dry down, and it's also quite resinous, definitely is. And I wouldn't go to the extent and call this fragrance super animalic, but for me, if I have these 2 fragrances, Bois SS and Corpus Equus, I prefer to wear Bois SS over Corpus Equus because it's a bit more challenging, and you have to be in the right mindset to enjoy a fragrance like that, if that makes sense. Because I do enjoy musky animalic fragrances, but there's something about the way this is created. It really does put the animal front and center, especially for the fact that it's got leather and you've thrown in the horsehair in there. So you have the experience of a real animal as you're wearing the fragrance. So I don't know if that's something that excites you guys. Try it. Eventually it settles to become a little better. It's a nice fusion of the leather and the amber together, but along the way the leather does get smoky, and it becomes more on the animalic side, and the musk tonkin appears as well. And this is a note I enjoy in fragrances, and I feel like the leather gets smoky a lot more than I wanted it. So it kind of covers up the musk tonkin. So the muskiness doesn't appear as much as the smokiness of the leather. But I think Bertrand did a great job. I think the inspiration is great. I like the start of the rose. I just wish the rose lasted a little bit longer. And it would have probably brightened up the fragrance as well. But those are my thoughts on Corpus Equus. Have you tried this one? I do have to say, all these fragrances are very, very long lasting. So if you are into long lasting fragrances, these are going to satisfy. But just be aware, some of these fragrances are on the daring side. All right, getting exciting here at the 3rd place. Again, this is not ranked. We're doing this alphabetically. in alphabetical order, but this fragrance really resonated with me quite a bit and I really enjoy it. This is Cuir Velours, another fragrance created by Julien Rasquinet. This launched in 2012, and this is at the launch of the brand, I believe. So they launched with Bois in 2012, Cuir Velours in 2012, and Cendre in 2012. So these three are the three fragrances the brand launched with, all three created by Julien Rasquinet. Then we'll get to the other fragrances and I'll let you know a little bit more about them. But Cuir Velours, oh my God, it's so good. It's a really, really awesome fragrance. It's leather. The word cuir is in the name, but it's got velour, so it's velvety, smooth. So it's got leather, tobacco, there's rum, there's cistus labdanum, incense, fleur d'immortelle, immortelle or everlasting flower. If you caught my video with Amber in the south of France talking about the various ingredients that they work with, she'll tell you a little bit about the immortelle that's in here. And whenever I experience immortelle in a fragrance, there's a kind of a autumn grassy effect happening, which later develops into being a bit sweet and caramelly, maybe a bit brown sugary, a little smoky, tobacco-ish. So that is all that you can get from the immortelle note. But for me, this is a very interesting fragrance in that when I wear it, I get a sweet and savory effect, almost like leather sprinkled with salt and pepper. I don't know why I get that, but there's enough of a savory side of this fragrance that the sweetness that comes in balances it out. And it's also leather, but I feel like this is more like suede leather because it does sweeten up and act like suede leather. And this one doesn't get animalic on me whatsoever because the sweetness kind of balances it out. The booziness kind of balances it out. And I think we're getting the sweetness from this immortelle note. Remember, I said it kind of gets to be a bit caramelly, brown sugary, a bit sticky, sweet. But when I wear it, I get that effect of sweet and savory. Like I feel like something salty has been sprinkled on whatever sweet effect that I'm getting in the fragrance, all while it's becoming very smooth and leathery. And of course, when it's drying down, becoming ambery as well. I didn't realize I really enjoyed this fragrance, but super awesome. And I'm smelling it now. I'm remembering how great it is on me. And there's that black pepper kind of a smell coming in, which is almost like balanced out with salt, because sometimes when I sprinkle salt and pepper on something I'm eating, the fragrance of the salt and the pepper I can pick up as I'm putting, the food into my mouth. So I kind of get that here, and I don't know what's creating that, but I kind of like it. It gives me scent memories of times when I smelled this particular kind of a combo of salt and pepper. But again, a really, really awesome creation by Julien Rasquinet. I didn't know how great this is. As you can see, I've worn quite a bit of this one because I really, really enjoyed it. I like the balance of the sweetness with some of the more savory touches. And I'm not saying there's salt in this. I'm not saying there's savory notes in this, but some of the notes do act a bit savory. And then there's a little bit of smokiness that comes in here as well. And I think this is when the leather acts a bit more leathery. The fact that there's a little smokiness thrown in there, I think it's coming from the incense note, or it could be from the cistus labdanum as well, which there is a smokiness associated with the cistus labdanum note. But I think this is definitely one of the best from the house, Cuir Velours, from the house of Naomi Goodsir. Let me know if you're familiar with that and what your thoughts are on it. And then the next fragrance, Cendre, it's the third fragrance from Julien Rasquinet, launched in 2012 when the brand launched. And this is notes of bergamot, tangerine, orris butter, violet, amber, cistus, tobacco. So this fragrance is also really, really unique, but it wasn't ranked as one of my all-time favorites from the house, but not in the bottom either. So the orris butter in here is very buttery and also very vegetal. Like there's a vegetal kind of a carroty quality about it. Super powdery as well. When I smell this fragrance, it's almost like I've cooked with grains a lot and you have a tub of grains that's been stored and, closed up. When you open that tub of grains, there's that kind of a smell in there of the grains, powdery, kind of dusty. It's prominent here as well. So basically what Julien has done is shared us the iris butter or orris butter and added these notes that kind of do not take over. So all the notes that are in here are supporting players. There is an ambery effect in the dry down for sure. It does get a bit tobacco-ish, but the main star is the orris butter. That's what it's for. That's what it's about. So when you tune into this movie or this film about the iris butter or orris butter, that's pretty much what you're gonna get. Sure, you'll have some light citrusy touches when it starts out. Sure, it does get a bit, ambery when it's drying down. But for me, the star is the orris butter in its most raw form. And again, as I mentioned, when you open up that tub of grains, there's a bit of like wheat grains or some kind of grains that has a kind of a dusty effect that's creating a powdery effect when you open up the tub. So pretty prominently there. The other thing with the butter, the orris butter, it's big on the green side as well. So it's acting a bit green, which is kind of correct because in the end, it's a plant, right? The orris butter is the orris root, which is the iris flower's roots. And you have this kind of a vegetal kind of, almost like angelica comes to mind with this, because it is very powdery. Angelica is very powdery. And so you got these kind of effects happening with this fragrance. I think if you like the idea of orris butter in its all naturalistic form with not a lot of notes to get in the way, I'm not saying those notes are not appearing, but you are handed the orris butter on this beautiful platter and in its most luxurious form, I think. Really awesome fragrance. It wasn't my top fragrance, but I enjoyed what I got with this fragrance. It's not super daring like Corpus Equus or even the Bois SS, but also I wouldn't say this is the most mass appealing fragrance because it is, like I said, the orris butter in its most true form, which I think is an awesome thing. If you want to experience it, definitely check Cendre out from the house of Naomi Goodsir. All right, I think this next fragrance is probably the fragrance that has the most hype or maybe the most press from this house. This is Nuit de Bakelite, created by Isabelle Doyen. So I actually shot a video with Isabelle Doyen in Paris Perfume Week. If you haven't caught that video, please do. It's with her and Camille Goutal, and they have the brand Voyage Imaginaire. And actually, the brand Voyage Imaginaire was placed right next to, I think it was next to Naomi Goodsir's booth at Paris Perfume Week. But if you want to find out more about Isabelle Doyen, go catch that. She is a perfumer that has created a lot of the Goutal fragrances and Annick Goutal fragrances. So I remember when this first came on the scene in 2017, and I believe this is around the time when I first met Naomi Goodsir is for the launch of this fragrance. I know it caused a pretty big stir. This features notes of angelica, violet leaves, galbanum, orris, caro carunde, tuberose, leather, davana, styrax, tobacco, labdanum, gaiac wood. So also with this fragrance, this is beast mode to the max. I don't know what it is about this fragrance. The lingering power, spraying in a room like this studio or my other studio next door, the smell stays there for a few days. I wouldn't say this is as strong as something like Followed, but it's got a lot of longevity. But this is, to me, it's about tuberose in the end. It's a tuberose forward fragrance, right? It does get leathery in the dry down. It's tuberose unsweetened. It's tuberose just blossomed. It's tuberose that hasn't opened up. It's tuberose in its rawest green form. So that's the experience I get with this one. I'm having a difficult time explaining this one because this is the most complex fragrance out of all of them, at least for me it is. And tuberose is the note that I don't understand the most. I wouldn't say this is something like the most famous tuberose fragrance out there, the, what is it called? The Fracas from the house of Robert Piguet. That one has that bubblegummy side. This is not that. This is kind of like, and I'm not saying it smells like synthetic nature or synthetic jungle, but it's more closer to that if that fragrance had an overdose of tuberose and also angelica, because there's a lot of angelica thrown in here. And it creates this rawness about it. It's slightly musky and also very, very powdery. And so I think that's the best explanation for how this fragrance is. For me, when I smell it, it's not super vintage, because tuberose tends to do that, but it's also not super modern. Like I find the tuberose in Carnal Flower to be a very modern tuberose fragrance, even though it's been launched for a good 20 years. This to me, it's kind of like in the middle, right? It's not your most conventional fragrance, but it's also not very, vintage classic or something. So it's a bit challenging to wear this one. It's quite green, as I said. Again, it's that tuberose that's just bloomed or blossomed, not fully opened up. So you're smelling light hints of the flower, but you're getting a lot of the greenness of the plant in there. Eventually, it does get ambery. It does get leathery in the dry down, powdery as well, but I wouldn't say this goes super ambery. It's a interesting fusion of super greenness with a bit on the leathery side in the dry down. Let me know if you're a fan of Nuit de Bakelite. Add a comment below. Are you familiar with Isabelle Doyen's work? Add a comment and let me know that as well. And last but not least, the last fragrance I'm talking about from 2014 is Eau du Serail. So this launched in 2014. So we've got 3 fragrances from 2012, one from 2014, one from 2017, and one from 2021. So I think Naomi Goodsir is definitely due for another fragrance. But I have to be honest, this is my favorite fragrance from the house. So super delicious. Yes, it's sweet, and if you're not into sweet fragrances, this one might not be it for you. But if you can handle the sweetness, it is absolutely fabulous. So this is created by Bertrand Duchaufour, and it features notes of cistus, apple and red fruits effect, mango, rum, sweet orange, davana, sage, beeswax, honey effect, cocoa, geranium, ylang ylang, Turkish tobacco, amber, labdanum, oak tree, cedarwood, musk, vanilla, mate. Lots going on here, right? But when I smell this fragrance, this is Bertrand's work. Like literally, this is the kind of fragrance I remember him doing for the houses like L'Artisan or maybe even Penhaligon's. So it's tobacco, right? It is a tobacco-focused fragrance. It's also boozy, but there's a major dried fruits effect happening here. It said red fruits effect, right? But I'm getting dried fruits. It's almost like this beautiful, gorgeous, syrupy, honeyed, molassesy dried fruits drizzled on top of a tobacco with amber and other fruits mingling together, flowers coming in and just becoming so super delicious. It's almost like hookah. I don't know if you guys have done it, but more on the sweeter side of hookah, but very honeyed. The honey is really important. Syrup is very important here. You have a lot of it. You have a lot of the honeyed effect happening, but man, it's so yum. So yum. Just imagine, as I said, fruits, dried fruits drizzled with lots of like sticky, gooey honey. There's, the tobacco. It doesn't get super smoky, but this is also, for me, not the leaves. It's more of like smoked tobacco. So it doesn't act like the leaves of the tobacco. It's acting more like a light smoky effect with the tobacco, but it's nicely done. And I would consider it probably one of the best from Bertrand Duchaufour. And also, I think, as I said, it reminds me of some of his work for L'Artisan. He did some fragrances like that there. And if I didn't have this in a Naomi Goodsir bottle, I could totally see it in a L'Artisan bottle. And I'm a big fan of his creations for that house. And so having a fragrance like this still on the market, because a lot of the fragrances at L'Artisan that he created are discontinued, sadly. So this totally takes me back and reminds me of his creations for L'Artisan. And again, it's my favorite fragrance from the house. So super great. The honey in here is so realistic, but it's almost like a pure fruit honey rather than just your everyday average honey that you pick up from the grocery store. There's a luxurious quality about it that I like. And I like the super refined, super, luxurious kind of take on honey rather than something that's just mass produced. Because that's what I get with this one. And again, it smells so heavenly, so yummy. But you got to be into sweet. This does get sweet. This is the sweetest fragrance of the bunch. And it's my favorite fragrance from the house. Eau du Serail from the house of Naomi Goodsir. Let me know if you've sampled it. So let's start with the list. Unfortunately, we're going to start the list at number 6 with Corpus Equus. I think it's the most challenging. It's difficult to wear. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it, but most of the time I'm not. So that's at number 6. At number 5, Bois SS. Sadly, that's also a bit challenging. It's smoky and it's difficult to enjoy and appreciate smoky fragrances. Nuit de Bakelite is at number 4. Sadly, it's tuberose, I keep mentioning, is not my all-time favorite note, so that's why I'm challenged with that. The Cendre is next. That kind of grainy, almost vegetal, carroty kind of iris in its raw form, the orris butter. And Cuir Velours is my number 2 favorite. So yummy, guys. And again, Eau du Serail and Cuir Velours, both of them are my favorite fragrances. Let me know if you're a fan of these two. Do you like them? Have you tried this house? you're going to seek them out, do add a comment and let me know. And then thank you so much for watching today's video. As I said, these fragrances are sold over at Ministry Scent. If you're in town, head over there and check them out. I think if you like my taste, you'll probably appreciate Eau de Serail and the Cuir Velours. But yeah, add a comment and let me know if you're familiar with the house or now you're curious to try them. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also click that bell icon so you'll be notified for future videos. And again, also please give a thumbs up for this video to help with the algorithm. Thanks again. See you guys later. Bye-bye.